All right.
Are we recording? Yes, we are. Good
All
afternoon.
right.
You got it?
Go ahead.
You ready? Good afternoon, everyone. This is Josephine Horace Jackson. I am the CEO, Director of Magnificent Mom, and you are?
My name is Erica. I'm a new member to Magnificent Moms, and thank you so much for letting me use this platform and so that we can get this out. We primarily are going to be talking about domestic violence awareness. This is something that's really near and dear to me, so I really felt like we need to, as a collective, be more aware because I know that I'm not the only one going through this kind of crazy stuff. So just to kind of uplift and encourage others.
Yes, so today we're just going to spend a little time talking about domestic violence. And as you all know, there are various forms of domestic violence. So I am a former survivor. Many of you all know this. Some of you all do. Some of you all don't. But I am pretty transparent on Facebook. So as you all know, May is Domestic Violence Month, Mental Health Awareness Month. So I like to share and be transparent about my past as I can help each and every sister and brother because domestic violence is not gender biased. So I would just like to sit here and Eric and I just like to share uh, what we've been through in hopes that we can encourage our sisters and our brothers in hopes that we can change the narrative, especially around this specific question: why did you stay? So there are many faces to violence. We would like to let you all know that domestic violence has many levels to it, and that we would like to encourage you all to be more compassionate and empathetic and just educate and make you all awareness that this is a problem and it's just not an adult problem, but it also affects our teens as well. Go ahead, Erica.
All right, perfect. So yes, I definitely wanted to share my personal experience because I know that it's not one off. I've always kind of seen myself in better positions. I never really felt like I was going to be a statistic. That's one thing that kind of always stuck under my skin is like, I don't want to be a statistic, bad enough from the community I came from because I was born and raised in California, and then I'm biracial on top of that. So I have a lot of, chips against me. And so, just falling into, I don't like the word survivor, but, I kind of feel like that does kind of sum it up and kind of explains what it is. But I definitely am someone who overcame. I'm an overcomer. So I overcame domestic violence and it's possible. So hopefully, with me and Sister Josephine here talking out loud about this, we can bring more awareness and let you know, like, there is help. There's other people going through it. Don't be silent. Don't keep putting yourself through it. So I did create a little slideshow. I'm gonna go ahead and pull that up. I feel like it's gonna have really good things that we can discuss. Let me see if I can figure that out. Did you want to start off with some experience?
We're having a little pause with our bandwidth here, so forgive us all. What'd you say, Erica?
I'm gonna.
Okay, go
Okay,
ahead.
here we go. All right, so stop domestic violence against women. So what I wanted to start with was the cycle of abuse. Now this is very near and dear, and it kind of does give a really good explanation on how the cycle goes. Now the first cycle is tension building. So tensions increase, breakdown of communication, victim becomes fearful and feels the need to placate the abuser. Now, in that part of the cycle, I am very familiar with that because as a woman and like as somebody who genuinely cares with my abuser, I kind of lacked seeing the signs. I didn't realize that he was kind of isolating me, and I found myself just trying to pacify him as much as I can, and that never really worked. But you can sense it when it's about to rise. And so when I was sensing it, I would still just try to make things calm and cool and collected, but it never worked because this is their cycle and this is what's going to happen. So when you start feeling those tensions building, that's, the first sign. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So number two, the incident. So verbal, emotional, and physical abuse, anger, blaming, arguing, threats, intimidation. Now that second part is my least favorite because at that point it starts getting physical. Now I'm a lover, not a fighter, and I had to fight a lot. And you shouldn't have to fight in your relationship. If anything, you should be fighting for more love. You should be fighting for more peace, like not fighting each other. So if you're in that section of the cycle, you got to realize that it's a problem, and you have to recognize that. How did you feel when you were in that section of the cycle of abuse?
Well, for me, it's really weird because my abuse wasn't necessarily physical. Mine was more verbal and emotional. My mother-in-law used to say, "Josie, you ought to be glad you're the only woman that twin never beat." And I used to like, huh? Like there's a badge of accomplishment. But his abuse was took me years of psychologists and psychiatrists and thousands of dollars. So his words hurt me more than his fist probably ever would. So
Mm,
so that's why I say it's different levels of abuse.
definitely. But even the mental abuse, like I was
Right,
visually abused all the time as well. And with verbal abuse, like you really start to believe it. And I feel like
right.
that's the scary part because I was really
Go ahead, I'm listening. We lost you. You still there?
especially, and then when it starts getting physical, that's even worse. So the next cycle is reconciliation. So number three, abuser apologizes, gives excuses, blames the victim, denies the abuse occurred, or says that it wasn't as bad as the victim claims. Now that part is definitely manipulation. That's the definition of manipulation because they want to apologize and things are roses and beautiful, and then you want to forgive because I feel like that's in our nature. Like you want to forgive, you want to try to make things right, and then you just try to move on and move forward, but again you're inside of that cycle of abuse, and so you have to recognize that.
Right, right. And this is where the statements comes, well, I'm sorry, baby. You know I didn't mean it, or you made me do what you did. You got to, these are where all the mind games and the word games come in. So this is the like I call being on the hamster wheel of psychosis where they where usually your self-esteem is usually broken down and you begin to believe what they said and not realizing that the harm that they're doing. So I have to be transparent within myself when I was with my children's father. I shared things with him, and he used those things to
Mm-hmm.
hold me captive. So
Yep.
that was how I would run away, and he would come back. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't
Yep.
mean to say that. You know, I love you. You're this and that and the third. And because I was in such a broken state and going through post traumatic depression,
Mm-hmm.
part of depression. I had a child, I had just been released from prison. I was on parole. There was so many things that was I was going through till I I was just trapped. It's not that I wanted to be there. So that's
Right.
where that um why did you stay? Not because
It,
I enjoyed being abused. It was just many other variables. Hi,
exactly.
Erica. Glad to see you here.
Hello. Exactly, though. And I think that that's what I kept falling victim to as well, because, after everything was said and done and he's sorry and everything, oh, I'm going to be better, like those empty promises, all that you want is a little bit of peace at that time. So, like you said, it's those mind games, it's that mental abuse, because you're like, okay, like, let's just do whatever we need to do so that we can get to that better stage. And it does get to that better stage for a little while, but then there you go back in that circle again.
It's always a trigger. And one
Yep.
thing that I want people to be aware of, that, and I know this may not be well received to some people, is that usually the abusers have been abused themselves. So
Yes.
in my work in psychosocial and social work and psych, I've learned that they just don't wake up abusing people.
Yep.
So we have to realize that to get to the root of the problem. So
Yes.
getting to the root of the problem, that's how we're going to cure the situation. So in curing that situation, I had to deal with how my children's father was from the beginning, way years before he met me. And in counseling, my there one of my therapists used to say, it's strange that you don't hate him. And I said, well, hating him is not gonna get me better.
Right.
So I had to realize my part. And see, this is a thing in the domestic violence cycle that a lot of my sisters don't want to admit to too now. And this
Hmm.
and this and I need everyone to listen to me carefully. This is not blaming or shaming or anything. What part did I play in this cycle?
Right.
And when I say this, every story is different. How did I get into this relationship from the beginning? Were
Hmm.
there red flags? Did I ignore the red flags?
Hmm.
Why did I ignore the red flags? These are all questions that each one of us has to come to in our healing process. And as
Yes.
I say, they're all different, and they're sometimes they're so suppressed that we ignore them. And when they come up to the surface, they're very painful. But
Yeah.
God, I believe that God will give us the grace for each and every one of us to individually heal ourselves. Does that make sense? It's not an easy process. It's not. And I'm not saying that the man should get off the hook. I'm not. But we all have a part to play in
Now,
this.
like you said, you really do have to start asking yourself questions, especially if you start to realize that you are in this cycle. The hardest part is actually realizing that you are in this cycle. And once you have that realization, then that's when you have to make your choice. It's going to be up to you if you want to continue to be on that cycle. So that's why the next slide I have, how many times, like how many times is it going to take for you to realize and get knocked down before you realize, hey, like, I'm greater than this. There's other things that I can do that has nothing to do with this dude. Like, how many times are you going to keep putting yourself in that cycle and suppressing yourself and suppressing your whole life? Because in all reality, all you're doing is missing time that you could be enjoying for what? For this man who's probably not even, that doesn't even care about themselves, because that's
Yeah, you went out again. So yes, how many times? And that question is individualistic. It's individualistic because each, as I said, each person
am
situation.
I, huh?
I was you went out. Your bandwidth went out. So go ahead and continue what you were saying.
Okay, so for me, I was in this relationship, and my friends and family will tell you it was off and on for 2 years. I mean, for 10 years. And I stayed personally because like I said, I really didn't want to be a statistic. I already had my son with another man, and then with with my abuser, my children's father, my girl's dad, he kind of played on that. He played on my insecurities, and he knew that I didn't want to go anywhere because in my own head I was embarrassed and I didn't want to have too many baby daddies. So he played on those insecurities, and I just kept going back. So I'm like, well, it's better than being looked at, like something else that I'm not. But honestly, like the main problem was drugs. So the root of his problem was drugs. Like, he's super into drugs, and every time he got on those things, that's when the cycle would begin. He would be up for days and nights. He would be yelling, screaming, fighting, cussing people out, saying the most craziest things ever. And I would still sit there because I'm like, no, this is where I need to be. This is my family. I have to work hard for it. But finally, like, enough has to be enough. So let's see. So enough. Once you get to that point, that's when you start breaking those chains. That's when you start to heal and you start to build. So you have to be at that enough stage. For me, that stage came when I got pregnant with my baby girl. She's now 3. When I found out I was pregnant, I was at my lowest of lows. I had no family with me. I had no friends. I was all the way out here in Arizona by myself, and
You went out again. Yes, I can understand that isolation part is a terrible part, and that's how they usually gain power over us. Is when we are isolated.
did, help me to get focused and realize, okay, this is rock bottom. I never in my life would have imagined that I'd have to be in a place like that. And to end up there was humiliating for me. So once I
Oh, we're going out again. Wow. Yes. So for me, isolation was hard.
what was your enough time?
Oh, well, my enough time was I was sitting on the bed. Well, let me go back. My oldest son was about 4 years old, and he said he was taking him to see his grandmother, which was his mom, and that he never came back.
Mm.
And I was out of my mind. I called his mom, said, I don't know where he is, and I called the police, and they said, well, that's his son. It's blah blah blah, and 30 years ago there was no such laws as protect us as they are now. So this went on. Long story short, I didn't see my son for almost 15 months.
Mm.
And my enough came. I was sitting on the bed watching the soap operas, and there was a character on there, and ironically enough, her name was Luna. And Luna means moon. And she said, only you and you alone can control your life. No one else can control your life. And and he would never let me leave the house with both of my sons at the same time.
Mm.
I would have to leave one of them at home. And because I was always telling him, oh, I'm gonna leave you, right? He said, whatever, you ain't going nowhere. He said, don't nobody want you. Your mama didn't even want you because I was adopted. See how he used words to hurt me.
Yep, that's
And
what they do.
and I would just cry and cry and cry because abandonment and rejection was something I was dealing with.
Yes.
I was miserable there, but I was always, just trying to get away. And let me share this. Before there was, I'm gonna be real transparent. Before there was Marissa Alexander, that was me. I had got so fed up with him that I had tried to harm him, and the Lord put His finger in the barrel of that gun. It wouldn't go off. I I don't want to incriminate myself.
Right.
Y'all just fool me. Oh, I thank God for being a keeper.
Yes.
Because there were several other times I'm like, God kept me and he kept him. My
Yes.
kids, I would be on death row and he would be dead if the enemy had his way. So when people say, "Why'd you stay?" It ain't about me staying. I wasn't gonna leave my kids with him.
Exactly.
So people always say, "Why did you stay?" But they never ask the men, "Why don't they stop hitting us? Why don't they
Right.
stop abusing us?" I ain't never
Right.
heard
And
that
then they try
question
to shame
asked.
us,
Why
and
don't
then
they
we're being
behave right?
shamed.
Why don't
Right.
they stop breaking our noses and arms and and,
Right.
and what raping us, and why don't they stop doing that? That's wrong. But that
Fact.
was when my enough came. When Luna said that, at that moment I called. I got some help. The first plan that with the Battered Women's Shelter and a legal aid foundation in Atlanta, they tried to help me out. Somehow this man found out. How? I don't know. I sort of plan for the second plan. The boys got sick at the same time. He couldn't come to
Mm.
work. I left with the clothes on my back and $5.35 in my pocket. I left everything, baby pictures, when I tell you everything, everything, mementos from my mom, everything, and the Battered Women's Shelter and this organization called AIM helped me out to come to
Nice.
Chicago, and I've been here since. That was my enough, because either if I had stayed there longer, he would have been dead.
Right. And it's sad that it has to get to that point too, because I recently had a situation, and that's why all of this actually came up, because like I said, 3 years ago I was done. And being that I was done, like, I haven't really communicated with him. I would communicate, trying to do the co-parenting things, but he was just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And he ended up coming over here talking about crazy stuff like, oh, you have my daughters, and I know you have them as sex slaves, and like, I'm like, how do you let stuff like that come out of your mouth? And he's like, I'm gonna get my daughters. So in his mind, he's rescuing them, but in reality, we're all fine and dandy. I actually had a trip to Colorado coming up, so I'm like, bro, why are you here? Like, just leave, just leave. And he came though, and he took a rock and he threw it right through my car window, because I was sitting in my car trying to get him away from my children so they wouldn't have to witness anything. And he threw the rock and it hit the back of my head, busted open my windows, threw another rock, busted my other windows, and I almost lost it. And like you said, it was the hand of God, because if it was up to me, I would have took his life. Like, because how dare you? And if my child was in the car too, how dare you? And it's our child. So how dare you try to ruin something that, first of all, you didn't build, and second of all, that this is for your kids. Like, how are you going to try to beat me?
Oh, you went out again. Well, I'm sure that was pretty traumatic experience. I'm glad that the kids weren't in the car.
On this man? I've already built up so much with him and blah, blah, blah. But trust me, once you let him go, sky's the limit. And of course, they're always going to try to be around. So you're really not missing anything. I promise you. Like, I promise you. Eventually, you're not even going to want them to be around, because they blocking your blessings, because that's what they're there for.
Yes, but you know the ironic part of my story is before my children's father died, we reconciled. Um, it's a really crazy story, but we did. I'm glad that we did something, and he got a chance to talk to his kids, but not before he died, but some years before. And I just want to let my sisters who are going through violence to know that there is healing on the other side of the abuse.
Yes.
And it's about taking ourselves off of their hook. They
Yes.
may never, my son's father never told me, Josie, I'm sorry. But in his own way, he sat down with me and he talked about what occurred, and an action that happened to me when he was in the bed, and he had his sister, his first wife, the young lady that he was with currently, and the young lady and the lady who he has two other children by, he had one of them to call me and tell me that he wanted me to come to Atlanta. And I'm like, oh, you got all that, I'm like,
What do you mean?
I said some unchoice words, but that let me know that, and then afterwards, I'm not going to share all this because I'm going to air this on Facebook, and I don't want, but he shared because I knew that I could trust you, and I'm like, okay,
Right.
20 years ago, 20, 30 years ago, where was that when I needed it? But
Hmm.
but I had to let that go and say, okay, God, I got it. This is this
Yes.
way. And other conversations that we had. So I was able to heal myself, allow the Holy Spirit in to heal myself. I was able to not continue to be stressed out, waiting for him to say, I'm sorry, because that wasn't coming.
Yes,
But one thing
exactly.
also I want my sisters to know and brothers, I never badmouth him in front of my sons. And
Exactly.
my
Me
sons are
too.
30 and 32 today, and they can bear witness that I didn't do that. So that's a part of my organization, Magnificent Moms, about gatekeeping.
Yes.
I didn't badmouth him. I didn't have to put him down and say he was a deadbeat and he was this, that, and the third.
Because he
I
was
let
showing it all himself. He was showing it all
yes,
himself.
I let them learn that on their own in dealing with.
Yes.
I didn't have to do that. So this is what I want my encourage parents to know, that even just because they can't be successful as a couple, that the dad or the mom, they might still be able to be a parent to those kids. So don't
Yes.
cut them off. If they don't, if let the kids learn on their own. I
Yes.
can understand if there's some there's danger or something like that. That's a whole nother story. But
Right.
the story of gatekeeping, I would like to encourage parents, don't, because you and the dad or you and the mom are having issues, don't use the kids as pawns. That
Yes.
troubles me. That grieves my soul when parents or grandparents get in the way because they don't realize the trauma that's inflicting on the kids. The kids may not verbalize it, but trust me, when they become teenagers, young adults,
That
and
was part of my
older
healing.
adults,
I'm sorry?
I said when they become teenagers and adults and young older adults, it's gonna be some mental health issues.
Exactly, and that's what I wanted to prevent. So that was part of the healing, was actually talking about it, actually getting their point of view. Like, it was really therapeutic for me, but it was also therapeutic for them, because we're able to speak freely about our situations, where we went wrong, where we could have, went better, and continue to move forward. So part of my healing was, communication, especially with loved ones. My kids, like I call them my three broke best friends, because that's who they are, and they are awesome, and thank God they have an understanding. Thank God we're able to speak freely about this, because I want to avoid those mental health issues, because they're real. I see, because like you said, it stems from the men and the women abusers from their childhood. Usually it's some unanswered, molestation or abuse that they went through, and they don't know how to cope with it, so they're going to project it on you. So it all starts with self and within and healing. And so that was my next little slide. Let's see.
Erica, do you have anything you want to say?
No, I'm just listening. I'm just listening into my sisters sharing some very important information. Thank you for giving me the chance, but you guys are doing a great job sharing this information. It's very critical.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, real love feels pure and authentic. And honestly, it starts with yourself. You have to love yourself. And one thing that I've been saying is, if you can't do it for yourself, do it for your children. Like, it breaks my heart, because I have a couple of friends who don't even have custody of their children because of the situation that they're in, with the man. And if you can't realize that, and if you get, like, thank God my children weren't taken away, because I feel if they were, it would have been all bad, but it was bad being with me too. So it was kind of like a double-edged sword, but at least I had them so that I knew exactly what they were going through, and that they wouldn't have any other outside influences other than the crap that that I put us in, you know. So once I realized that and that it was hurting them, I just put my love into myself, and then I put most of my love into them, and everything's just been working out. Like, I can't even complain now. So that's one thing that I wanted to share with my friends and my sisters. Like, be encouraged. You have to love yourself, and if not, put that love into your kids. If anything outside of, you know, being able to be confident in yourself and your kids being healthy and confident, it's got to go. So you have to recognize what real love is. You know, love is patient, love is kind. We all know the scripture. If what is going on in your life isn't in the same cycle as love, then it's a problem. So it starts with self.
You know, I was about to bring up the 2 Corinthians 13. Love is, it's pure. It's
Yes.
not demanding. It doesn't make demands. It's not loud. It's not boastful. All those things that love is. And sometimes we mistake love for infatuation or lust or whatever. And a lot of times people have gotten into relationships. I know in the body of Christ, they tell you that it's better to marry than to burn. And sometimes when we marry certain people, we are not we our foundation was not plumb line. We were not friends first. The Lord, and I know God gives us choices about things, but sometimes we marry for the wrong reasons. And
Well, the Bible says that you can't be unequally yoked. So what that means is, if you are a Christian and they are a Muslim, you're unequally yoked. So it's not going to work. If you're a hard worker and they're a bum, it's not going to work because you're unequally yoked. And so it starts right there. You have to have that friendship. You have to have that understanding, and you have to have the same objective, because otherwise it's not going to work.
yeah, even with the word Christian, that term can be subjective because there are 33,000 denominations. So
Right.
even that can be a problem. Even if they go to church and you don't. But I believe if the basic foundation, if that is plumb line, then it can. But what I meant to say by that is that when you have a foundation, that when you share the same vision, when you're walking the straight line looking at the same thing, he can't be looking this way and you looking another way. It's not going to work. So that's what I mean. When you got to be looking the same way, sharing the same vision, you have to talk things over. Marriage is not easy, or being in a relationship is not easy. You're going to have to put in the work. You're going to have a safe zone where when you get angry, you can't say certain words. You're going to have to talk things out with your mate and let them know that hey, this is not right. But also, you can't punish them for what another person did to you. They didn't
Right.
live out what the that other buster or that other chick did to you. That's not fair. So communication is vital. But
Yes.
silent treatment and all these other things that we do, we need to ask the Lord to reveal it to us so we can deal with it and we can be healed before we go into another relationship. So as you got up here now, reach one, teach one. That's the church's responsibility, and that's our responsibility. Those of us who have, oh, as you said, overcome, and like
Yes.
you said, survivor. But you're right, we have overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word
Yes.
of our testimony. Our
Yes.
testimony is what is going to let people know that, hey, if God did it for her, if God did it for him, if God did it for them, most assuredly he can do it for us or for me. And I know that God has kept me. If I tell y'all all the things that I have been through, y'all swear I'm lying. And
Man, me too.
some of my
Me too.
testimony is a little bit too raw for y'all. Y'all can handle it because when I tell y'all I'm a walking, talking miracle.
Man.
Listen, I done had some psychos in my life, and it wasn't
Man.
that I went out there looking for them. But let me be real with this here camera right here. Some of that stuff I ignored the Lord because I was walking in pride.
Yup.
Like let me tell you, with my children's father, I heard God say, uh-uh, uh-uh. But you know what? I would say, Because I heard everybody say, oh, he did this and he did that and he did this
Yep.
and he that and the third. I said, oh, let me see. I don't believe that.
Same thing for me.
But look what happened in my disobedience and my pride and my arrogance.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then, but wait, hold on now. But then when I went to the church, and what did the church tell me? Pray for him.
Yep.
Praying so.
I'm already knowing.
I prayed, and that still didn't change that man, because guess what? He didn't want to change.
Exactly.
The Holy Spirit ain't gonna force himself on nobody.
Exactly.
And see, the church have gotten a lot of women killed by staying in abusive relationships, and then they put that guilt on you, saying you divorce them. I ain't gonna even get into it. I ain't gonna
right. I know. I'm feeling you. I'm feeling you.
I ain't gonna even go there. But anyway, God never told us to stay in a relationship where a man is beating us upside the head.
Right.
That's not the God that I serve. So if you are in danger, there is help.
Yes, and that's part of the first step though too. Like you have to want that help. So for me, like I said, my lowest point was having to be in a domestic violence shelter. I did have to do, I think I even called this number, and that's how I got to the shelter. And then from the shelter, they had like housing assistance, and they helped me to get into another place. And once I got into my place, like that was it. I was able to thrive and actually do better. And like you said, like with my testimony, people who've been there, they don't even believe that of the stuff that I went through, and they seen it for themselves. And I'm like, no, it's true. But God, he held me through every single time. Like in the shelter, I met some amazing friends, and I'm still friends with a lot of the women there. We were all about something. We were all about carrying our kids and trying to do better. And some of us stumbled, along the way. But a lot of us, we still stayed on our mission. And so getting that help, talk to people too. Like that's another thing. Don't keep things bottled up inside. Like if you need a friend, call me. If you need a family member, call a family member, call suicide hotline, whatever you need to do. Make a phone call. Let this be known, because carrying it all yourself is not necessary. I know that for myself, I do have a lot of pride, and I don't like to tell people my business, especially embarrassing things. But now that I'm, kind of over it, and I'm able to see exactly what's going on, I feel like it's a tool to use my voice now. So use your voice. If anything, that's why I wanted to hop on here, because I want to use my voice, let you know that it does get better. Get out of that cycle. It's a dumb hamster wheel that's worth it at all. And once you do break yourself out of that cycle, watch all the blessings come. Like you don't have to be a specific religion, but have something in yourself. Try to believe in something higher than yourself as well, and see where that takes you. Actually focus on positivity and see how far you will get, because once you change your mindset, everything else changes too. Like the Think and Grow Rich, all of that is so true, because you have to manifest it. And the only way you're going to manifest it is if you surround yourself with those positive things that you want. So know that the help is out there. There's always going to be somebody that you will be able to speak to. There's always going to be somebody who does care, and you can believe that. So please believe that.
Yes, yes, and I just wanted to thank everyone for taking the time to listen to us today. We could go on and on about this, and because I'm so passionate about this. There are thousands of women who lose their lives here in America, and really across the world, probably more than that. I don't want to list the stats, but there is help. I have a Facebook group called Magnificent Moms. You can reach out to me. My name is Josephine Horace Jackson. Erica is there. Just inbox me if you need to talk. I'm here.
Same for me. Erica Williams, I'm part of Magnificent Moms as well. I also have Brothers and Sisters United Corporation, in which I'm trying to help women get out of their domestic violence situations. I do have a lot of resources with the people that I've gone through, and actually friends who are counselors and who are case managers. So if you need that assistance, don't hesitate to ask me. If I don't have the answer, I'll find it and we'll get through this together, because there's help out there. There's people who care, and I genuinely care.
And once again, even though we spoke openly about God, I know that there are people of different religious faiths and persuasions. Find your inner sanctum. The world was formed with words. Speak
Yes.
positively over yourself. Um, um, denounce any negativity. It doesn't have to be what I personally or what Erica personally. There are two Ericas on here, one with the A and one with the E. It doesn't
Erica with
have
the
to.
A.
Yeah, that's Erica with the A, and there's Erica with the E. And I love them both dearly. It doesn't have to be what we personally believe in, but know that our God loves you, whether you believe or not. But
Yes.
speak positivity, speak life into yourself, and know that we love you, and know that there is another way, that this is not how your life is supposed to be. And once again, if you need help, please reach out to me. My name is Josephine Horace Jackson of Magnificent Moms on Facebook, and my personal page, Josephine Horace Jackson. um, Life doesn't have to be like this. There is a way out, and we will assist you in any way that we can to end this dreadful situation. Thank you for taking the time to hear us out. Have a wonderful Saturday evening. God bless you.
Yes. You're loved. Bye.
Bye.
All right. You able to stop the recording?